It is good and hot here in Southern California, and if you're looking for a science experiment that could help that situation, I just might have the experiment for you. It's called ice cream in a baggie. And there are many people who have already put YouTube videos on this very experiment. So I'm not going to actually go through the whole process with actual ingredients because you can find that easily. But what I can offer you is what I think is the perfect recipe. I've done this for many years, and each year I try a different recipe. And even though it's fun and delicious, at best the consistency we've always gotten is somewhere between a milkshake and soft serve. But yesterday was the first time that we got solid, hard ice cream. So I'm excited to share that recipe with you. It's really a two-person job, unless you need a parent or an administrator. Unless you're an administrator, then you're going to definitely need a parent. But I'm working inside, and then I have someone working on the outside, and that really helps. It takes about an hour to do your whole class. And when the students are doing their shaking, you want to make sure they do it far away from your classroom. I didn't know when I first did this that salt water stains. And so we had saltwater stains on the door, on the rail. It took a long time to get rid of those. So put them far away from anything that you don't want to get all wet up with salt water. And the other tip that is very important is when they dump out their salt water, you don't want to have them do it around you, because pretty soon you will be sitting in a heap of mud. So send them far away to dump out that bag. But here's the recipe. 1 cup, half and half. 2 tablespoons sugar and half a teaspoon vanilla, and that's it. And I have the students measure it in a little measuring cup and stir it up, and then they pour it into these freezer bags. You want to make sure you get the freezer bags because they're much more durable than the regular baggies. And then you push out the air that you can, and then they seal it twice, 3 times to make sure it's sealed good and tight. And then you give them their gallon bag, and you send them out to the salt and ice station. And this is, I think, what made the difference, is that we used 4 cups of ice and a half cup of rock salt right here. And I've always used other recipes that have a 1/4 cup or a 1/3 cup, but I think that 4 cup ice, half cup rock salt was the secret to our success yesterday. And if you get this 4-pound package, it can make that has 18 half cups, so you can adjust to your classroom. You probably need 2 of these for your class. And once they've put that into their gallon bag, then they seal that up really well. And you do have to teach them to be gentle. This is not, you're not trying to throw it against a tree, or you know who I'm talking about, or throwing it up in the air and see how far it can go. Be gentle with the bags. It's just humble plastic. And then they wrap it up in a towel. I had my students bring a hand towel. Some brought beach towels. It's not necessary to be that big though. And then they shake. And sometimes it has taken us up to 15-20 minutes of shaking. But with this combo, we had our hard ice cream in 10 minutes. And then they took it out, and I just gave them a spoon. We ate right out of the baggies. And remember, don't let them empty this out at your feet, because you will regret that. And I can't remember, did I tell you how much ice you need? If you get an ice chest, fill it about 3/4 full, and that should be enough for your class. Now, after I'm done with all the ingredients part, then I come out with a tray of toppings, and we used chocolate chips, chocolate and caramel syrup, and then I even brought sprinkles. And when one of my little boys saw the sprinkles, he said, "Oh, sprinkles!" And I said, "Well, you know, everything's better with sprinkles." And he solemnly said, "Even life's problems are better with sprinkles." And I thought that was a good observation that he made. When we were finished and we went into the classroom, you do want to time it too, because I did this right before lunch, and then, you know, nobody could eat lunch. But you'll choose a better time. But when we went into the classroom, I asked them, I said, if you could do this experiment again, would you do anything differently? And hands went up right away. Mika said, "Well, I would put less sugar." And Amelia said, "I would use less vanilla." And I have leftover half and half, so I said, you know what, we are going to do this again next week. And they were so excited. And I said, but this time I'm going to let you bring the toppings. And they talked about fruit, peppermint, and Jet raised his hand and said, can I bring cones so that we can make ice cream cones? And I would have never thought of that if I hadn't opened it up to my students. But, you know, what I wish I could provide for you is how this all works. I have had Stanley come into my classroom and explain it. I don't understand it. I've watched many YouTube videos. I've read articles about it. I mean, I do understand that the salt makes the ice get colder, but I don't understand why. And Stanley does such a good job of explaining this. He drew pictures of fast-moving and slow-moving molecules. I remember him using words like thermodynamics and heat transference. And I understood it when he was explaining it, but I sure can't explain it now, or to even my students. But he truly doesn't have time right now to come and explain it to us. So I'm going to have him link a couple YouTube videos that I hope will be helpful to you. But before we do our ice cream next week, I'm going to do another connected experiment. I have thermometers that I use in science all the time. And I'm going to have the students, I'm going to have beakers and glass jars, and we'll have a control and we'll have our experimental jar. And I'm going to have them put ice in both jars or beakers and then measure the temperature. And then I'm going to have them add salt, this same rock salt, to one of the jars. And they are going to see that the temperature will really reduce. But what I'm not going to be able to do is explain it to them. But you know, maybe fourth graders, maybe that's enough for them to understand that salt has quite an effect on ice, and maybe they can go home and spur some good discussions with their parents. Or maybe wonderful Stanley will have some more time and he can come and explain it at a later date. But I hope you'll have fun with ice cream in a baggie, and I'll see you next time.